we're seeing the NHS really stepping up now in delivering amazing services in very difficult situations. As the Chief Constable, we talked about this some time ago. How have you prepared the force for this pandemic? How is it going?
Well, can I also add my gratitude to our colleagues in the health sector. They are working tremendously hard in very, very difficult and dangerous circumstances, and our job from the outset has been to play our part in supporting other partners. In this case, because it's a health-led emergency, the response is led quite rightly by the Director of Public Health, Sarah Scott, in the county. And we know Sarah, we've trained with her, we work with her through something called the Local Resilience Forum, which prepares for a crisis. Now, once the crisis occurs, the right lead is identified. Here it's the Public Health England Director. And we then support the establishment of something called a Strategic Coordinating Group, which is a multi-agency approach under the Civil Contingencies Act of 2004 to help recover the county to a new normality as soon as possible. And initially it's in response mode. It's response to a crisis, and then it's the restoration of that new normality. We're still in response mode. And my Assistant Chief Constable, Craig Holden, you'll know Craig has been the Deputy Chair of that Strategic Coordinating Group in support of Sarah. And we, in effect, help to support the day-to-day running of that SCG setup. And we have a Local Resilience Forum coordinator, Matt Steele, who works for the County Council, doing a great job as well. This is the work of many people. So in answer to your question, point one, when this happened, we need to be supporting our partners, the right partners, who are setting up and getting into gear to respond to a national emergency, an international emergency. Secondly, and concurrently, we turned our attention to making sure that we could continue to function. If we can't answer 999 calls, 101, deal with crime, business as usual to the best of our ability, and all the things that are expected of us in our role as a police service, then we failed. So we became very early adopters of the guidance, and we put in place very, very early on organisational distancing, shielding of very vulnerable staff. Some of our staff have significant diseases, including cancer, and they were shielded at home. It doesn't surprise me at all that they were still asking for a laptop so they could be socially useful. Tremendous effort, by the way, from our staff as well. And we put cocooning into place. I remember briefing you, Martin, that we overnight had moved our response teams out of their main central location at Banfurlong. Literally, it seemed overnight. They were moved into 3 locations, lockers, out trays, the lot, so that we could split them into 3, so that if any one of them got the virus, they didn't contaminate and pass that on to, in effect, a huge chunk of our response officers. We couldn't afford for that to happen. We moved half of our major crime team out of their main office and set them up with half of the CID office, almost overnight, again to make sure that if we succumbed to the virus, we didn't lose entire capabilities in one fell swoop. And I think those early measures, along with establishing something called a COVID-19 response team, and that team, by the way, is given additional protection, they have additional skills and training, and they would go to members of the public or calls where we felt for sure, or even suspected actually, that there might be someone in that property who could be showing signs and symptoms of the virus. So that all helped to maintain a healthy workforce to the best of our ability. I'm really pleased to say that we've been improving the abstraction rate in a positive way for the last week or so. It peaked at one point about 10 days ago. We check it every 3 hours, Martin, and we know precisely how many people are off, how many are self-isolating, how many have symptoms, and how many people have to be off to be shielded for their own protection. And that is monitored through our Silver Command every 3 hours, as I say, and we have been able to sustain an adequate workforce to do not only our job in the county as a police service, but to support the public recovery of this significant incident.
Thank you. I think that's reassuring, because even though you've accepted, we all do, this is a health emergency, not a police emergency, but the police must step up. And I'm aware, and I know we've discussed this, that Some of your staff have been treated very badly by people, I believe, using COVID as a weapon, as a threat. And I'm also aware, and I think, I'm not sure it's the same case, but other cases in the county where the other emergency service, people in the NHS, have been very badly treated by an incredibly small minority of the public. But I'm pleased that you're there, strong and resilient, to take on these people. Did you want to comment on how your staff are being protected and how you would extend that out to other members of the emergency services, the ambulance drivers, the nurses, the doctors, and indeed the general public?
Thank you. You will know that we and I in particular feel very strongly about the health and well-being of our workforce. They're magnificent people and they put themselves in harm's way every day, and I need them to come to work feeling supported and secure to the best of our ability in, at times, a very hostile environment. So we have a very well-established well-being programme and a supportive leadership culture here. The COVID-19 pandemic has caused another challenge to us, and we have had instances where members of the public have been using as a weapon, coughing deliberately at public sector workers, sometimes members of the public, but that includes police officers and some of our police staff colleagues. It is utterly unacceptable. I was very pleased to see that the regional head of the CPS recently came out with some very clear guidance to her staff, which she copied me into, to say that it is unacceptable and will be treated with a seriousness that it deserves. And we have had a couple of instances over the last weekend where one of our special constabularies, chief inspectors, was responding to a house party. They took somebody into custody, and when they got to custody they were spat at, the officer was bitten and punched. It is utterly unacceptable. That individual was interviewed and charged and put ideally before the courts, and we've also had officers receiving racial abuse whilst they're doing their job in relation to this, and also of course paramedics being coughed and spat at. Each time we've taken a very firm stance and quite rightly put those before the courts. The sentence is a fine or 12 months in prison, but that will be for the discretion of the courts, and I trust them completely to do what is right in each individual circumstance.
So I think I'm right in saying a very dim view. People who use COVID-19 as a weapon, be it racial or physical, like coughing or spitting, are highly likely to find themselves in the cells, locked up and before a court. Is that about right?
Correct.
Good. I think that's a very strong message, and you get my 100% support for that, and you're quite right, the courts will deal with it if they think fit, but I think the public of Gloucestershire would expect that, and that's why it's important. I think we keep a very strong force. Well, thank you, Rod. Thank you very much for that. I think that was really, really helpful. I certainly hope you found that useful and found that informative. You can see this on our various social media channels or on our website, and the important message is, please keep safe. Thank you.